So hey, good morning all. Happy Friday. Hope everyone's doing well. Had a good week so far. Learned something, seen some exciting announcements, and had a chance to network. I mean, really, this morning, what we'd like to talk through is establishing a modernization cloud center of excellence. Today, myself and Elite, who are both enterprise architects at AWS, we sort of work with partners across the world in building out things like CCoE capability. We have my colleague Yogesh, who is a modernization-focused partner solution architect. And as well, we'll be bringing on stage one of our colleagues from APN partner Crayon, Gokul. So, trying to think, why do we care about modernization? Why are we sort of in the room today? I mean, there's an often quoted stat from Gartner that by 2026, 75% of businesses will be looking at digital transformation journey. And why is that important? Because this provides a massive opportunity for modernization and also for partners helping to deliver modernization. By building out your modernization capability, by then scaling it with a CCoE, or Cloud Center of Excellence, you can use that to try and capture this opportunity while supporting customers. I think what we'd like to do today is we take you through what we, as AWS, have learned working with a large number of partners across the world. So, let's start with modernization. Let's try and sort of set the scene. We know that business needs are evolving. Companies are looking for increases in agility and looking for improvements and transformations away from maybe some legacy architectures and systems. I say with this may be led to and change to business strategy, where some business leaders are looking for innovation and transformation in order to remain competitive. I think if we take modernization as the use of modern technology designed to increase our sort of agility by focusing on modernizing the applications, the infrastructure, the data, looking at updated processes, in the end, so we can present a better customer experience and deliver a higher business value. I think sort of with this, this opportunity for modernization, it applies to workloads on premises as part of their migration journey, as well to workloads that are already on AWS. We know that technology evolves as well. What was the most maybe effective way of deploying a solution 5 years ago may now no longer be the case. And if we try to think through what are the sort of business-led requirements or business drivers that are driving that need for modernization, we could be looking at the pressure to innovate, to get features out to users faster. There are new technologies, there are new services that are available that can reduce cost, that can give better, more features to users. With the cost of maybe scaling in people cost as well as maybe that dollar cost in some legacy architectures can get more and more expensive as it scales. With older software, we can look that there is an increased risk around security and compliance, and maybe some of the brand reputational risk that could bring. One of the things I think with modernization presents an opportunity to create business value. But something that we found is quite often with modernization projects, how to quantify the value that is created during the effort put into a modernization project may not always be clearly defined. One of the things we sort of like to do is by using the AWS Cloud Value Framework, there are sort of 5 easy metrics that we can use to try and quantify some of the additional value that is gained. Going through a modernization project, we can reduce our total cost of ownership, we can increase our staff productivity, we can enhance our operational resilience, we can have a positive impact on our sustainability, and that increase in business agility. It's not all just money-led, there are other benefits that we should quantify. So maybe it's that thought of how can modernization, or why is modernization important for APN partners, for sort of the people in the room? And I think sort of with this, we know that when APN partners are working with customers, they're helping those customers deliver and accelerate what are key projects across a whole world of different verticals and horizontals. As partners, by taking your expertise in these industries, for example, and then combining it with modernization skills and capability, you're able to enhance the transformation that can be done for these customers so they can meet the outcomes and improvements that they are looking for. I think as with it, this comes as well. This is a chance to increase maybe sort of some revenue streams coming along and work and to keep working on long-term opportunities with customers. So I know a little bit rushed there, but that was some of maybe the background, the why modernization's important for customers and for partners. Now maybe let's think around what can be a standard approach to modernization. This is where I'd really like to talk through the modernization pathways. So the modernization pathways are prescriptive guidance from AWS that are there to enable specific customer outcomes by providing specific guidance of how different application modernization domains or projects can be mapped to AWS services via methodologies, some guidance, and some tooling, all wrapped up with proven patterns. The modernization pathways are not the only framework or method for delivering modernization, but they are battle-tested, they are scalable, they are repeatable, and they're based on, they provide you with the ability to have almost a templatized approach which you can use to engage your customers on their projects, so you can have repeatable and scalable processes while delivering these projects. Trying to get to the way so it's quicker and faster to deliver, but also as well to provide that maybe better, more consistent experience to the customer. So really, the modernization pathways are focused on 2 of the 7 R's of migration. Replatform, where we're looking at platform optimization. Refactor, where we're looking at reimagining or re-architecting the application. We know that modernization can often be complex and require custom engagements. The modernization pathways templatize the approach to tackling these 6 domains. And one bit of advice we have when we've been working with our partners is, although there are the 6 pathways, it's not necessarily recommended to be experts in all of them. It's really around where do your skills, where are your current skills, and what customers are looking for when you're delivering them out. There can be nothing wrong with just picking maybe 2 or 3 just to focus on initially for whatever is most relevant to the market that you're operating in. So maybe let's go into a little bit of details of the pathways. Now, for the pathways, there was a session earlier today, I think it was, in PEX305, which goes into these in a lot more detail. Highly recommend that if it's something of interest, to check that out. So where we take the first pathway, the move to cloud native, this is where we're looking at changing the underlying architecture and infrastructure, trying to move it towards a more cloud native approach. This can be the things of looking towards containerization or moving to event-driven architectures, moving to serverless. Wrapping all this up in the use of AWS managed services where it's appropriate. For the move to containers pathway, this can really be looking at the containerization of an existing application and then taking it into a managed service, or maybe porting existing orchestrated container workloads to a fully managed container orchestrator. Within the move to managed databases, I think there's really 2 tiers here. This can be the move to AWS managed databases to reduce the operational overhead, reduce that total cost of ownership. But also as well, this could be what used to be sort of database freedom of looking to select the right or to modernize to the right database engine depending on the type of data that is being used. We know that relational databases historically were used for a lot of data types that maybe weren't the most appropriate for them. With the move to open source as a pathway, this is looking at maybe moving from a proprietary database to an open source database. Or it could be from the second part, maybe of looking at modernizing .NET workloads and then taking them to open source frameworks. Again, looking at reducing that total cost of ownership. With the managed analytics pathway, really focused around sort of data lake initiatives, but trying to underpin AWS managed services across real-time analytics, data lakes, data warehouses, all that sort of sphere. Trying to take away, again, that focus on some of the operational complexity and allowing you to help customers scale as more and more data is created. And then lastly, with the move to modern DevOps, again, this is looking at defining as infrastructure as code with CI/CD pipelines, again, trying to look at reducing the time it takes to push features out, to have consistency across environments, and then also to reduce risks during deployments. So maybe let's take a sample customer project, and this is thinking how multiple of the modernization pathways can be used to deliver what is the modernization. So maybe if I start here with what the business-led requirements are. So maybe we've got 3. So we're looking to reduce the total cost of ownership, we're looking to increase our operational efficiency, and then we're looking for consistency across multiple environments. Our source application here, 3-tier web app, like using Java WebSphere for the app, maybe an Oracle self-hosted relational database. We can approach this by using 3 of the pathways. By using the move to containers pathway, we can use Amazon ECS to run our application, utilizing AWS Fargate, so there's no servers to manage, so we're reducing that operational complexity, and then underpinning it with AWS App to Container to provide the code level containerization. With the move to managed databases track, we're looking at, we will utilize Amazon RDS to host our Oracle DB, and then we can wrap this all up with the move to modern DevOps, where this environment is defined as infrastructure as code, and then we have some CI/CD pipelines to push out our containers. Now, if I sort of try and take it back to our original requirements for modernization, by taking this approach, we have reduced our total cost of ownership, we've made it easier to manage, and we have the ability now to push out across those multiple environments. So maybe that's a little bit of the background of why and how it can be approached with the modernization pathways. Maybe what I'd like to do now is introduce my colleague Yogesh, who will talk through how you can look at building modernization practices and how that comes together.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. All right. So now, as an organization or as a partner, you have already decided that now let's build a modernization practice, let's build a modernization competency. But how does this journey look like? What are the paths which we need to follow? So let's go ahead. Well, first thing first, we need to divide this journey into 3 high-level steps: build, market, and sell. How do we build something? Well, first step is to identify what are the top dominant pathway which we need to focus upon. As she mentioned, modernization is spanning across 6 pathways, 41 AWS services, which is continuously evolving. We have rarely seen any organization which are strong on all of these pathways. Some will be strong in containers, some will be in analytics, some will be in databases. So first step will be to identify which pathway probably you may need to focus on. How we will do that, I will talk in a bit. But this is the first step. Now, we conduct then initial warm handshake and conduct a boot camp. In this boot camp, we hand over you all the first call deck, second call deck, asset, tooling, framework, which you can then take with your teams and take with your customers and help in gaining some of those practices. Now, this boot camp is really important because we hand over you all the accelerators as well, both process and technical accelerators, so give you the complete repository of the information, tooling, and everything. Now, other part is the enablement. One dimension is the technical enablement, which is of course very important. Your technical colleagues will learn, go deep into the technology. But in terms of modernization, we will say the business enablement is equally important. Your sales team, field team is equally important because the most complex thing in modernization is to articulate the business value of modernization. And there is a lot of inertia amongst customers, and why it is so, we will discuss in a bit. Now, once you have done this enablement part, the next step in the journey is to create the practice at your organization level. How to create the practice? We will again zoom out in detail on it in some time, and then also perform some of the assessment. Now, by assessment, I mean to say get some AWS competencies, LGPs, because you have already done this enablement part. So that will help you get validation of some of your skills which you have already built upon. Now, the next step is go to the market. Now, market, you are ready for the market, amazing, then create some opportunity. But how does you create the opportunity? Because again, if you say that we are good in all of the pathways or we are just good in containers, that may help, that may not help. But if you have some GTM alignment, go-to-market alignment, so probably that may help in win some market traction. What do I mean by that? So for example, if any partner says that we can modernize the core banking solution and these are our sales play and this is our go-to-market offering. So any banking, any financial institution will be really interested to hear how do you modernize the core banking solution. So likewise, you can have some go-to-market, some offerings which will help. Now you are at the customer side, you are on the sales side. You are talking to customers now. But then you talk to customer, first step is to create the business case, do the assessment. How do we do the assessment of modernization? For migration, assessment is pretty straightforward. You scan the entire inventory, you know my CPU utilization, memory utilization. You say that I can convert this 100 VMs into 100 EC2. This is the size of my EC2, which is fine. But for modernization, you need to go deep into the application level, dependency level. You need to go at the component level. So how to do that? So we have different mechanisms for the same. We have tooling with our ISV partners, for example, CAS, vFunction, Matilda, there are many. And then also we have modernization assessment, which is from AWS. And there are migration evaluator and AWS services as well, which again we will talk in a bit. Then we create the business case. And again, how do we create a business case? How does the business case look like? What are the key things to be taken care in business case? We will again discuss. Then eventually you will do the mobilize and delivery. But then we are not talking about one project, two projects. We are talking about hundreds of projects which you are going to do in next many years. So how do you scale up? So to scaling, we will be having the CCoE, which is Center of Excellence, which will be covered by my colleague Lalit. So does this journey look interesting? Yeah. So let's go deep into it. And is this the only way? Is this the only way to achieve modernization practice? Maybe, maybe not. But then we tested these steps with 40 partners in APJ in 2023, and we got tremendous results. So yeah, let's go. So first step is the pathway alignment. So we have created a framework on A2T tool, where MRA, CRA is hosted. You already are aware of probably of A2T tool, wherein you get the PMSA-led workshop, which is the questionnaire across each of the pathway, and it will help you identifying the maturity and the capability against each of the pathway. So for example, you may get score of 4 out of 5 in containers, 3 out of 5 in database, 2 out of 5 in, say, analytics, for example. So you know what are your strengths and what are the areas of improvement across each of the pathway you may need to work upon. Then not only that, this is the consistent way to measure, consistent framework globally to measure the maturity and the capability across different pathway. And also, you will get the tailored custom prescriptive guidance as the output of this analysis. So once your PMSA conduct this workshop with yourself, so they will give you the detailed plan of action, what should be your next plan of action for next 6 months. So that's quite interesting part. And also, you will be able to focus on your region-specific industry demands. So PMSA will guide you accordingly, and accordingly it will help you in creation of your practice creation. Now, more on this was discussed in PEX305, which was the session before this. But in case you missed that session, you can probably watch the recording later on. Yeah. Now, enablement part for the technical aspect. Technical aspect, we know that in Skills Builder, there are 600 plus courses which are there, which could be quite overwhelming. So we have indexed, curated the courses into the specific pathway. So for example, if I say that I want to build skills on containers, so I will get to see all of the move to container courses, in which sequence I need to do, what is the complexity of each courses, what is the duration, whether it is paid, whether it is free. So you got the complete index curated list of courses across each of the pathway. So that will help you to do these courses easily in the offline way, and definitely your technical colleagues can take the benefit out of it. For the business part of it, enabling the seller part of it, we are creating the partner seller handbook, which we will share later on. It is still work in progress, but I will also cover some part of it in some time. Yeah. So this is from the technical perspective. Yeah. Now, again, the first stage was to alignment with the pathway. Second phase was the technical enablement and the business enablement. We discussed about the technical enablement. Now the next part is to activate the practice or create the practice. How do you create the practice? Well, first of all, at that partner level or as an organization level, you need to have your executive alignment. You need to have strong justification why you really want to build the practice. After all, it's a considerable investment of your time and resources to build the practice, right? And unless you are fully convinced yourself, how you will convince the customer? Second aspect of it is that how do you decide on which pathway you want to build the practice, right? One way is that you can identify your dominant pathway. That is one way. But second thing is probably you may want to see your region-specific industry demands and trends. Say ANZ has suppose huge requirement for the data. So probably it makes sense that if you are an ANZ partner, so you may want to focus on that. So based on, you may get access to the report from IDC, Gartner, and various other reports. Understand the industry demand and trend and your region, see which are the huge requirement, and of course your capability, which we have discussed before, and then you can decide on which pathway you want to build the practice upon and get the return on investment and business case done at the organization level. And then define the key metrics for the success. What will be the best metric that you have really developed a strong modernization competency or practice? Probably you are getting some opportunities in market. Yeah, that could be one of the key metric. That is one good metric, but that is not the only metric. Probably how skilled your people are, or how many GTMs you have created. Probably those could be another metric. So make sure we only improve the things which we can measure. So we define the key role and success metrics. Now, enabling the practice starts with the, again, training and enablement. Training and enablement, I'm repeating myself, it's not only technical, it's business enablement, and then creation of some modernization offering. Modernization offerings, for example, you may probably build the offering which can modernize your containers from one platform to another platform seamlessly. Probably you can build some automation like that. So there are numerous things which could be done. Now, or say, then when you have built these modernization offerings, you have got enough skills. So it's always a good idea to validate your success with the help of AWS APN program. maybe gain some EKS competency, DevOps competency, ECS competency. We have service-specific competency. And as mentioned by Ruba in her keynote, that 74% of customers actually try to see whether you have AWS validations or those competency or not. So definitely that will help you. Now, coming to the selling part of it while building the modernization practice, again, if you are too generic, probably it may not cut the ice. What I mean to say, if you have a specific go-to-market offering, that really helps a lot. So, for example, you say that I am a partner who can modernize the Salesforce easily into the AWS, and we have a well-defined sales play for the same, and we have done for the 4 customers already. Probably any customer who are having the same point, which of course they may be having because they are if using the same technology stack, so probably that may bring some interest. Yeah. So having the well-defined GTM strategy is really helpful, and then coming up with the AWS, with the selling, joint selling, and capturing the value. When you say the building relationship with AWS, so you are getting support in terms of accelerators, technical support, business support, and of course, the MAP funding, which is available at your disposal based on the requirement. Yeah. So this is the way you build the modernization practice. Awesome. So what next? Now, the quest for modernization is never ending because your customer will always try to seek the competitive advantage in the market. So this is what is depicted by this business value flywheel. So step 1 is to generate the customer interest. You are talking to the customer for the first time. So how do you generate the interest? Probably you can use the known research data, you can use the modernization first call tag, which we will be providing you during the boot camp or otherwise as well. So you will say that you will get 30% agility, 40% TCO improvement. So probably that may generate some customer interest. Customer will say, okay, that sounds like pretty good on paper, but can you give me some little bit more details about as per my application, my requirement? Yeah, so you have done the initial customer interest, you have generated that, but then the next step is to define the project scope and the KPI. So you probably go do some assessment of their application, maybe with the help of ISV tooling, with the MODA, which we will again talk in detail. So you basically create the project KPI. So what this will KPIs? It should be from the top down. What do I mean by that? It should be business driven. So to be honest, CEOs doesn't care on which platform their applications are running as long as they are getting the desired business result in the specified time-bound manner. Yeah. So for example, if it's a payment application and they have the requirement that 90% of the payment should be processed under 2 seconds. So if you say that our KPI will be that 99% of your payments will be processed under 1 second, and this will be the throughput we will support, probably that will help. So those will be the project scope and the KPIs which you will create. Then the next stage will be give the partner the proposal and the solution decision. So you will give the directional business case to partner. You will give the directional detailed business case to the partner and the customer, and then eventually you will be able to suggest how you are going to achieve the desired goals, and then realize the business value for the actual customer. Yeah, you will deliver the project, you will do the proof of concept, and here while I'm saying, you can also leverage the ModX EBA for the same to do some quick wins, to do some proof of concept. Again, if you don't know much about ModX EBA, we have the wiki link for the same, which we will share. Now you can leverage many accelerators, and once the business value is delivered to customer, you have earned their trust, and then again this journey continues. Probably now you may want to pick up the second application, or you want to pick up the what could be the next, because there will be never be the end state in modernization. So if you are running on EC2, probably EKS is the way of modernization. Then you say that we can move to ECL, then from ECL to serverless. So this is not that this is the end state, we are fully modernized, it's all done and dusted. There will never be such situation, at least in near future, I can see so. Yeah. Now, how does this sales funnel look like? Again, engage the customer. How do you engage the customer? leverage the first call DAC, excite the customer that this will be the outcome, and this will be your modernized AWS workload look like, and this is the way you will get all those benefits. Then you evaluate their application. When you engage the customer, it is at very high level, very generic, which is probably applicable for entire world. But then once you do the application evaluation, it is probably focused on the customer's application only, isn't it? And then build the directional business case. So when you build the directional business case, you tell them that this will be your total cost of saving, ownership saving, this will be your agility, this will be your time to market, and then eventually you will create a detailed business case, how much it will cost, what will be the time and effort. How to create the business case? We have a dedicated section on the same. So this is how the overall sales funnel look like. Now, we do understand the assessment for modernization is different from the migration level assessment, yeah? So one way is the modernization assessment, which is MODA, which is already there on A2T tool again, where you conduct the workshop with the customer, and eventually you get some data. You see what is the application, DevOps practices, software development lifecycle, and create the target architecture. But one limitation with MODA is that it is for every application you have to repeat it. But for many, you need to do the portfolio level analysis. For example, you need to scan the entire inventory. You say, I have 100 Tomcat server, 200 Oracle server, 300 SQL server. How to modernize that part? So for that, we have evaluated 13 ISV partner tool across 37 different use cases. So now how to make decision which tool is better in which situation. So we have solved that problem for you a bit. So you can then filter down based on the use case that these are the top 3 or 4 best tools which I can leverage, and then accordingly you can take those discussion further. And this way you can focus only on your strength rather than doing the inventory analysis and the other part. Yeah? Now, this part demands a dedicated section, how to articulate the business value of modernization projects. Now here, if I'm talking about two-step modernization, suppose customer have already moved their data center to AWS EC2. Now you say them that let's move this EC2 to EKS. What do you think, or will it save their monthly bill a lot? Maybe yes, maybe not. Or if I say that if I refactor all my application, move to serverless, will it save my monthly bill? Maybe yes, maybe not too much, because when you move to serverless, you are introducing additional component, your architecture like API gateway, which probably you were not using. So if you talk only in terms of the infrastructure cost or the workload cost, it may not help. But when you say that your monthly bill will still remain be $100 per month, for example, but your time to market will reduce from 100 days to 40 days. Your dev to production will come down from 100 days to 40 days. You will be able to launch your service much faster. That makes sense, yeah? Or if you say your operational cost and the monthly security cost and other costs will reduce drastically. So the true TCO is not only the infrastructure and workload cost, it's about inclusive of the time to market cost, new feature development cost, and also the operation and maintenance cost. And when you build all those feature things into the business case, then probably it will make any sense for customer, yeah? And then you are aligned to the business goal, come up with the detailed approach. Now this is important. You are saying to customer that we are on the point A, we need to go to point B. You need to tell them how you will go to point B, what are the various stages, what are the various steps for the same, and propose the next step. Now, here at this stage, I will like to invite my colleague Lalit, who will discuss that how to scale this entire mechanism with the help of CCoE.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Steve and Yogesh, for sharing the insightful opportunities with our partners in the modernization space. Throughout years of experience working with our consulting partner, AWS Partner Org has identified some successful criteria and identified the behavior of our most successful partners. Our partnership has grown drastically and much faster way when there is a very well-established Cloud Center of Excellence in scaling the cloud practice. My name is Lalit. I'm an enterprise architect at AWS. I'm here to walk through with you how you can establish a CCoE and scale your cloud practice. Before we start talking about the CCoE, let's discuss some of the challenges our customers are experiencing it. We really need to address these challenges. And we have seen that many of these challenges are almost similar across all the customers as well. We'll start from the top right-hand side. First challenge is around vision and strategy roadmap. Because we are not aligned with the business goals, what customer is looking for with this cloud strategy. They might merely start it as building the cloud capabilities, but not able to get that advantage of what they want to achieve it in the end goal, because we are not aligned with their business. So we won't be able to deliver that business value when we are starting this cloud journey. It might be merely a technology initiative only. Effective adoption is a very key there. They might not have enough adequate cloud knowledge, where partner ecosystem will come and help them out to build that cloud knowledge. And the application teams might not be able to employ the industry best practices because they don't have the expertise in that. And different parts within the organization might be driving different initiative and trying to explore different AWS services, and they might be duplicating the efforts as well. And partners can really come and help it out. Security and compliant platform is the biggest challenge these partners are right now facing it, because there are industry standards, there are specific organization level standards there. There are some regulatory requirements that needs to be implemented, and they are not aware of how to implement those end-to-end there. So there are automated guardrails behind that, where partners do have expertise and can build those capabilities to address those challenges. The last one is efficient execution. When we are delivering the project correct, we are not hand-holding the customer end-to-end, how they are going to operate it when they have migrated their workload or modernization their workload. Onboarding support is really important, because the standard operating procedures might change it, because it will not work the same way as like it is working in on-premises there. They don't know how to optimize the cost. They don't know which are the right tools they need to use it to do that. Organization change management is another factor, because business daily operations teams all needs to be aligned it as well, because it might be a bigger change for them when we are modernizing those applications. Now we have gone through the challenges. Now let us discuss what partners needs to do, organization needs to do to address those challenges. The first, we are looking for our partners to, they are looking for a trusted cloud adoption advisor. So we are expecting our partners to build a form of CCoE. This will help you to establish the best practices across the delivery team and the customers as well. Identify the key modernization lighthouse workload to migrate on to the AWS under the CCoE umbrella. This is really important. You need to identify the project which you want to migrate it under the CCoE umbrella. We will go back into that a little bit later there as well. You need a driving force next level from the CX level to support these initiatives, so that we know what is their vision in the long term. What we are going to achieve it is we will be building the reusable, repeatable assets, reference architectures, prescriptive guidance, how we are going to mitigate the risk when we are delivering the project for the customers. Community building and enablement is really important. We need to upskill our team. We need to have advocates within our organizations who can go and learn, automate the things, can guide our partners from end-to-end transformation journey. Also, we need to also federate the CCoE functions and scale the impact as well. Might be look at centralize some of the functions like security, risk auditing, and then even the billing function together. Most of the time, partners ask this question and share their challenges, how they can start with the CCoE journey and establish a successful result-oriented CCoE there. There are three fundamental tasks to establish the CCoE. So first characteristic, we need to look at form the team with the key characteristics. The team should be very experimental driven. They should be able to learn from the failures and iterate very quickly as well. They should be able to take the bold decision and not too afraid of the status quo as well. It should be result-oriented. They can take the idea from the ideation phase to the successful implementation of the project as well. It should be customer-focused. If you are not solving the customer problem, why need to build the CCoE? That should be the aim over here. And they should be able to influence. They can scale their old skills through that continuous learning as well. Because technology is evolving. Every day we are announcing the new services, new capabilities. So team should be good, capable enough, able to learn, and then pass that messaging and build the solutions around that as well. Quick win. Establish a lighthouse modernization workload. You need to identify the project to deliver under the CCoE. I talked about previously as well. Focus on a high value, relatively small project, but it should be a very important project because that will be your guiding project that you will be iterating it to deliver multiple projects for different customers moving forward. Because CCoE team can help to develop, apply, and document all the best practices when they're delivering this project. These are the standards. They need to build it as part of the evolving framework as well. Try to avoid one of the project. You might get one of the project which is very unique, but you can't expect the similar sort of project coming from the different customers as well. Don't execute that project under the CCoE umbrella. So just avoid it off. So you need to pick up the right project with the right size so that can be delivered in a right duration. I usually recommend to have the project to be delivered under the CCoE between 3 to 6 months. That should be a good range of the time duration. Try to use the metrics to show the measurable outcome for that project as well. How many repeatable and reusable assets you have created under the CCoE umbrella for that project, and how many service catalog items you have created it. For example, infrastructure as a code, automation for a landing zone are the few examples. Leadership support is really very important when you are setting up the CCoE. You need to communicate the vision from top to the down there, because there will be development leads, there will be operational leads who will know what your expectations when they're be part of your CCoE team there. You need to set the goals for the team. What is the expected value? What is the expected outcome? You are looking for it. You need to move as much as to the cloud native as well, so that you know what you want it from your business in next 3 to 5 years as part of it. And you need to also keep the pace of technology as you are evolving there. And make sure you maintain the accountability for each individual within the CCoE. What are their KPIs? Might be aligned with their performance goals by end of the year as well. When the team initially start developing or modernizing the application, might be on serverless containers, a lot of questions comes from the customer. Which is the right AWS services for this particular scenario? There is no right and wrong answer there, because each application differs from each other. The role of CCoE is to work with all these teams to establish the best practices so that we can answer those questions to the customer in very well manner there. So, for example, what is our strategy for DevOps? How we are going to modernize the application? What are the security and guardrails that we are going for the loosely coupled application and architecture there? So when we are establishing the operation principle, best practices, and guardrails, for example, you have selected for one of the modernization pathway. These are the 8 key areas where we need to keep it in mind for end-to-end transformation of that project. So how you are going to implement the best security practice, how you are going to monitor and logging it there, what will be the DevOps strategy, CI/CD pipeline looks like, how you are manage the cost for the end customer, which are the tools you are going to use it, what will be the testing strategy and tools that you are going to test the workload, because now you are running it on-prem. When you migrate onto the cloud, you might be having a different tools there. How you are going to do the unit test, integration testing, performance testing. Operational readiness testing is really very important, because you will be validating whether how the workload will behave, the application will behave when it's got migrated to AWS. Community building is really important. You need to have an evangelist within your team who are keep on innovating, learning the new things, and advocating for that and talking to the customer in that manner. Create those architecture patterns. Database transformation is also very key. Sometime you have a bigger databases, how you are going to migrate it, how you are going to modernize it, how much time it will take to transfer the data from source to that target system as well. So partner do ask what is the expected outcome as we evolve with the CCoE as well. So my answer is always building the repeatable and reusable assets is not a one-time exercise. You need to keep on leveraging the well-architected framework, FTR checklist, as a guiding principle there. You need to communicate your success by the metrics. What is the advantage of delivering the project? What is the advantage you took it with the automation? Earlier, we were delivering the same project in 7 days. With the automation, can we deliver the same outcome in 1 day or not? So iterate with every pilot project and see how you can leverage these assets. Share the success with your tangible outcomes and metrics to share with the customer, and make sure you are capturing all the lessons learned from each of the project as well, which is really important. And look at next project to improve further. Try to get better outcome every time with every iteration. And this will help you to make much more profitable as well, which is your end goal as well. Build the community, internal evangelist as well, so you keep on evolving over there. With this, I will hand over to one of our AWS partner, Crayon, who have built successfully the CCoE, and I would like to invite Gokul onto the stage now.
Thank you, Lalit. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Gokul. I'm an AWS ambassador, community builder, and also the global AWS services lead at Crayon. So Crayon is a premier tier AWS services partner who helps its customers build the commercial and technical foundation for a successful and secure cloud-first digital transformation journey. Today, I'm here to talk for a few minutes about our success in establishing the CCoE. Okay, so Crayon typically envisioned the CCoE journey in alignment with the best practices of AWS. Identify the need for CCoE. So Crayon always had this vision and strategy of accelerating cloud adoption for its customers in the form of cloud strategy, cloud migration, cloud modernization, and also cloud managed services. At the same time, Crayon also had this goal of delivering the highest quality of service to its customers, irrespective to whom they contact at Crayon or which part of the globe they speak to, because we are close to 50 subsidiaries. Define the CCoE vision, and typically we did this in 3 different ways. One is acceleration, continuous improvement, and modernization. So by acceleration, what we mean is creation of repeatable and reusable IP assets, which Lalit was also talking about. So this is really the undifferentiated heavy lifting that a partner like Crayon can do for its customers, delivering this at a lower cost to the customers and at the same time saving time for Crayon to build these repeatable assets. Next is continuous improvement. What we mean here is enabling each of our subsidiaries globally to constantly build on these assets so that they can go to market easily to their local customers. And finally, modernization is keeping up with the best practices of AWS and constantly updating the architectures as AWS constantly refreshes its services. Build business case and executive sponsorship. This is definitely an interesting topic. Now, Crayon envisioned this CCoE like a startup. Now, as you all know, a startup is allowed to experiment, fail quickly, and also produce results in an agile manner. At the same time, the founders of a startup are also very committed towards it. And similarly, Crayon was very lucky to have the full support and commitment of its executive leadership and management in building the CCoE over the last 18 months to 2 years. Build a startup CCoE. So how did we go about building the CCoE? First is by identifying a few set of key senior AWS experts from within Crayon and forming a team. And then we built something called the MVP, or the minimal viable product, which is a set of repeatable and reusable IP assets. Think of something like your landing zone accelerators. And the most important step here is to take this MVP and reach out to all your customers at once at a very early stage in the process, typically even before they set up the landing zone, so that we can guide them throughout their cloud adoption journey. accelerate pilot customer projects. Now, it's very important to understand the priorities and needs of the customer, and this is typically done by providing pre-sale support as a partner. It's also important that cloud should be adopted for the customer in a matter of days with your landing zone accelerators and not weeks, because that's going to be the differentiating factor in building trust both internally as well as externally. Repeatable assets enablement. So now we have built the MVP, and we have also implemented the MVP. Perhaps a very underrated step here is customer validation and obtaining feedback from the customer on this MVP. Based on the feedback, it's up to us, the partner, to improve this MVP in the form of automation, documentation, and also enabling skills building. Scale, semi-decentralized CCoE. Again, a very interesting topic because 10 years back, we were about 20 subsidiaries globally. Now we are close to 47 subsidiaries. So a single point centrally wouldn't be able to scale up to all the different subsidiaries, and hence the need for a semi-decentralized CCoE, wherein we enable each of the local consultants and solution architects in different countries so that they can go to market easily for their respective customers. And finally, focus practices. Now, the establishment of CCoE at Crayon has also enabled us to focus particularly on data and AI, and we have a specific CCoE for it. And similarly, we are constantly thinking of ways such as a modernization CCoE, cloud services, containers, serverless, and so on. Okay, so a few journey with the, or achievements for Crayon. 32 new reusable assets with CCoE. Now, what essentially this translates to is that the adoption of cloud has been possible at an accelerated rate for so many customers, 40+ pilot projects delivered, definitely at a lower cost to the customer, and also very low delivery time for Crayon. 70+ customer projects supported, and there has been very positive feedback, not just from the customer, but also from local consultants from the different subsidiaries on the time it takes to deploy to the customers. Literally from scratch, just about 2 hours to deploy these landing zone accelerators. And 20+ Crayon subsidiaries have been supported. Okay, finally, a quick quote from one of our executive leadership, and this really is the thought that resonates among the executive leadership at Crayon, is that the value that we see from the CCoE, such as building of these reusable landing zone accelerators, has definitely made it a key service offering for Crayon, and we are very thankful for this journey over the last 18 months to 2 years. Thank you all for listening to me. Now I'll hand it over back to Lalit.
Thank you, Gokul, for sharing the wonderful journey. I hope all the partners are listening and then take the advantage of this and establish the CCoE there. Here are some of the call to actions that we want to, for all the partners who wants to build the CCoE. Executive alignment is really very important there. So you need to have a very proper sponsorship. Look at it as a long-term change within your organization and see the benefits you can get it from the CCoE. As Gokul mentioned, the delivery times, the way they are able to get the benefits much more profitable as well. And they were able to scale it into different subsidiaries as well, 18+ subsidiaries, which is really amazing there. It should be very customer focused, and you should not be, if you are not solving the customer or business problem, why to do it? So it should be focusing on customers' problems there.
Other part is identify the top pathway you want to work upon. No need to boil the ocean, no need to focus on all of those 6 pathways. Second part is leverage fully the accelerators and the ISV tooling which is provided by AWS. So that will help expedite some of your journey. So go through some of the detail in more.
And then when you're looking sort of inside your organization, maybe at what modernization capability you want to deploy, or maybe how you would like to approach developing a CCoE, be self-critical and look at for what gaps you have. By identifying those gaps, that allows you to put them on the roadmap so you can build the capability to enhance your organization. And I'll say with all of this, obviously reach out to your AWS account teams, partner solution architects, whoever they are, who can support you in your journey across modernization or the modernization pathways, or across building a CCoE. And then the last point just on there, with the for any of you who use the migration acceleration program, there were some changes announced this week. if you use the modernization pathways as part of a MAP project, you can unlock extra funding during the process.
Here is the QR code for continuous learning. It is basically a QR code for the skills builder training that we have created for partners and customers with very hands-on labs on all the 6 modernization pathways. Please scan the QR code and then share it with your team members as well. And we would like to thank you all for joining us today for this breakout session on establishing the CCoE. I hope this will be very helpful for you, and please help to fill up the survey as well.
And if you have any questions, we are around here. And yeah, I'm looking forward for your feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.